All right, Bonnie got. All right. Bonnie got everyone. This is Professor Rahh, and we're here at the Conscious Corner, a product of the Community Education Network, along with Joe Hembrick, my co-host, and we will be interviewing and discussing racism and exploitation of the Black athlete with one of the greatest superstars with the Chicago Bulls, and played on 2 championship teams, and has a beautiful book out. Tell us about the book. Is he there? Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm here, big brother.
Can you hear me?
No doubt.
Okay.
Brother Rahh.
Professor
Rahh.
Yeah.
Can you make that introduction one more time, because it was going in and out?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we cut like every third word.
Every third word. Okay. Rigo.
Yeah.
Go ahead and start. Just introduce and start the program. Introduce it just like the other program while I work with this computer and get on.
Okay.
And let Craig just talk. I can hear.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Conscious Corner with hosts Amin Rahh and Joe Hembrick. This evening, our guest is Brother Craig Hodges, former NBA basketball player. And tonight's topic is racism and the exploitation of the Black athlete. So Brother Hodges has a book out right now, and we wanted to hear about his book for the moment. And while we're waiting on Professor Rahh, okay. Go ahead, Brother Hodges.
I didn't want to do, you do that old plug type thing, but the whole plug type thing. First of all, like I said, I just thank God that we could all get together, and for me to get an invitation from, one of my favorite professors. It was Professor Rahh and Dr. Karinga, as well as Dr. Ali Muhammad, who were, they were mentors for me at a time in my life where basketball meant a lot, but at that point in time, you're searching for something that's more important. And coming and having been born into a civil rights family, it was when I got to Long Beach State, it was another step forward into learning and developing understanding of what our people had been through and what I could do with my life energy to take us to the next level. And as far as utilizing sport to be able to platform for civil rights and human rights and community development. And that continues to be the case here, working in Chicago, working on community development and economic development.
Okay, so Professor, while we wait on Professor Rahh, we're gonna go to Brother Joe Hembrick. Mm-hmm. Brother Joe, you wanna go ahead and ask a few questions for Brother Craig?
Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, brother, thanks for coming on the show and everything.
I'm honored, man.
Watch your career from time to time. I didn't read the book yet. I just got a picture of the copy of it over the computer a couple of days ago. But anyway, I'm an old retired football coach myself. I've dealt with a plethora of issues, during my career with officiating and hiring and firing and the whole 9 yards. And, I've always wondered why the number of pro athletes haven't joined together to establish something, for these kids in terms of like, community center type stuff where they can learn the history and culture and all of that. I see a lot of Jewish community centers, you know, with everything laid out, you know, weight rooms, swimming pools, libraries, cafeteria, the whole nine. And
Right.
the you guys, you know, around the country, I was just, you know, I've always been amazed as to how come, you know, I haven't seen anything like that. I know a few people got schools and whatnot, and you know, like what's the name up in Detroit,
Jalen Rose.
yeah, and whatnot. And I had a talk with Brother Woodson, he used to be the coach of the Knicks at one time.
Mike.
Yeah, I just happened to run across him in the bar one time. I think it was at my daughter's graduation after dinner. We sat outside and talked a good while. He was just going through the process with the Lakers, you know, and telling me how that went and all of that. So anyway, that's what I'm bringing to the table. And I really want to quote Malcolm right now that he used to say back in the day, you know, brothers play football, basketball, and baseball while the white man is cutting off their ball. So, you know, go on and comment, brother, if you like to address whatever I've said.
Yeah, and one of the things I just got off of Kwame Brown's podcast, and one of the things that we're working on is creating a network that you speak about with the young players connected to the older players, that we can create that safety net. You know, we're coming up, I'm a baby of the 60s. We have programmatic stuff in our communities that help develop us. And a lot of those programs and a lot of dollars for those programs have dried up. And like you said, it's something to create both the educational, economic, as well as the sports side of things so that we can have a well-rounded job coming forward. And I think right now, with this group of young players, coupled with the social media end of things, I think we have a good opportunity to do just what you spoke about. But it has to be, I think it has to be a collective, and it has to be branded the way that athletes are branded, as products are branded. We have to be able to let people know that this is something that we're doing as a collective, similar to what you spoke about with the Jewish community.
You know, power that the athletes have that has been shown through this Black Lives Matter and all of that. You know, stuff still goes on, even more so, you know, than before George Floyd. You know, people
Right.
got killed every day, even athletes getting fast and whatnot. And it's just, you know, in the NBA, you know, most of the players are brothers anyway. Seem like if they try to form a collective, they could be very powerful and really doing it.
Yeah, you have a conscience.
One of the things, brother, that I want us to, you know, when we talk about being able to utilize the collective of NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, what have you, I think we have to look at that agency part of things, that agent factor. We have to look at the unions. I look at myself and Rahh when we were going through what we were going through compared to when Colin Kaepernick did his thing. Colin Kaepernick did his thing in the social media age, but at the same time, his union had a big part in negotiating with the NFL for them to even give him a look-see or whatever. But that compensation that he got was coupled with his union. Our union hasn't represented those players who have been socially active to the point like myself and McNew. I paid over $30,000 in union dues, and when it came time for me to need an agent in 1992, no agent would represent me. My union didn't represent me. So when we look at it, I think it's one of those things that we have to look across the board and across the spectrum of who has been liable, who has been to some degree culpable in as far as those things not happening. And we have to look to agency as a big part of that, because that's the main driving force. A lot of these young brothers not making the moves that they're capable of making because of the representation as well as the counsel that they're getting from people that don't look like us.
Also, brother, you know, for those that haven't read your book, you know, would you comment, you know, the situation that happened to you? I hear you guys was at the White House. And
right. Well, in 1991, after we won our first championship, I was thinking that we were going to go to the White House in June. So I had a dashiki to go to the White House. Professor Rahh and Dr. Green taught us about going to events that matter. You should carry your culture, and that was the initial response. But we didn't go until October 1st of that year, and it gave me a chance to sit down and think about some things. And the night before we went, I wrote a letter to President Bush concerning poor people, disenfranchised, and not just Black people, but specifically, the last part of the letter I wrote, concerning our people, man, and the fact that if anyone should be considered for aid or foreign policy or aid, I want us to consider us. You can buy bombs and you can spend money overseas, but the amount of funding that's coming to us who helped found the country and build the country is little or none. So for me, it was one of those things that it was a natural progression of how I've been taught, how I was raised. My mom told me, when you have an opportunity to speak on behalf of your people in a place that you can make a difference, you do so, and you're not worried about the consequences because you're doing what's right. And that's been the fundamental principle. And the basketball is one thing, and having a love and passion for that, but I was blessed to have educators. My aunts and my sister taught me how to read before I went to school. So passion and research has always been something I love to do. And having Professor Rahh and Dr. Karinga, teach me how to go about it and to be able to formulate a solution-based mindset on into my professional career was, good, man, compared to seeing other brothers that were thinking about it at the same time.
Greg?
Yes.
Racism and discrimination is deep in this country and throughout its history.
That's right.
Give us your experience and understanding how the pro athletes in basketball, dealt with racism and discrimination with regards to being traded without notice or treated different, and how white players get paid more money sometimes sitting on the bench than Black players start.
Right. And that's the part of it that a lot of people don't see, is that you don't see the insidious part of racism, the subtleties of, you may have a big brother that a white coach will insinuate that he doesn't think very well, and that you're not able to communicate in a manner where it's to the general population who buys tickets, and the exploitation, of a John, let's take a John Concac who could get a maximum contract during the era where nowhere near the best player in the league, so there's the parts of it, and that's what I tell people when I look at what Kwame Brown has done the last couple of weeks, and as far as exposing, the nerve of racism. And I think that's why everyone is so upset, because for so long, you've been able to hide that part of what America's about. And you can highlight a Magic Johnson and a Larry Bird and make it look as though these are two heroes. This is the converse battle between good and evil. And young guys look at that, and then you go on to Michael Jordan, who was marketed as a golfer, by his wise agents who happened to be Jewish agents. And they were able to market him basically away from the Black community. Whereas if we had that same ability to go in and harness our athletes and their economic power, that's the part of the exploitation that is taught early, that when you go and look into the AAU programs now and the effect of a Nike, Adidas, and those type of companies who into the communities exploit these young brothers and sisters. And one of the things that happens is, from my own experience, there's a young brother that played with me named Raymond McCoy. He's a McDonald's All-American. He's been given everything, but I'm over here working at the park doing my thing. And then I see how much influence that has on the group in total. I had a great support system, but my boys that were around me, they thought Raymond was better than them just because he could play better. And I think that's one of the things that also exploitation is, not just on that professional level, but it filters through the community on a level where the only way I can be great is to be an athlete or an entertainer. And then that whole model is exploited on a level of, well, you want to be a celebrity, you want to get out of your community, as opposed to, I know that this sport or this legacy is going to give me a platform, but that doesn't make me better than in my community. And I think that's one of the things, that the ability to separate us on a sport level, but not educate us on that mental and spiritual level to know that, you know, we're a lot larger than a basketball or a football, and that the things that we can do once we go into those things, me and Kwame were talking about it, that we look at it as a gold mine, that we're going in to mine resources that now we can bring back and educate our people with.
Yeah, but at the same time, Craig, you know, I taught exploitation of the Black athlete.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I understand the dreams and aspirations of young people as far as them pursuing a professional career and all those type things. I was part of that myself as an athlete in college, this nature. But at the same time, when we look at when people say, well, Black athletes, professional athletes are being exploited, a lot of times they say, well, no, they ain't. Look at the money they make. But at the same time, if you do a parallel analysis, and what I mean by that, a chronological analysis, you will see that many Black athletes, they were Black before they were athletes. So they are exploited because Black people, all Black people are exploited.
Yes, sir.
Throughout the history of this country. And then all Black people, knowing, unknowing, are casualties of racism or survivors of racism. Right. Now, those that know it, like yourself, you started in college. You started the African Student Union, you attended Black Consciousness Conference, and you kept that legacy going in the pros. Are there any other athletes you could that you were dealing with that had consciousness or exemplified a sense of consciousness or struggle against the system before Black Lives Matter?
You know, and it's you know, Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, Chris Jackson. You know, what he went through. He was one of the brothers that stood and you know what's so cold, Brother Rahh, is that we speak about these things, and you know yourself, everyone knows what's going on. So you speak about these things on the bus, on the plane, in the locker room, in the training room. Everybody sees it. The problem becomes is when will you admit it on a public level? We see what Kyrie Irving is going through because he's standing on the principles that we know to be correct. And that's where it becomes a choice. And like you say, within the exploitation of it, we're all exploited from jump. Now, how do we choose to rise out of it? How do we choose to bring our people out of it? And as much to me was what y'all taught us as far as, you know, I think the biggest thing that I learned from you, Dr. Khaled, and the Black Studies Department in general was, you know, the wherewithal that you could stand on these principles and live. And I think a lot of us feel like if we're Black to our culture, if it means something to us, we can't go out and be public about it because there may be some detriment to what we can earn. And I think that's where we fall into that exploitation ourselves, when we feel like we can't speak because we may lose our salary or we may lose an opportunity. And that buys into that whole fear. And I think the whole fear of it is why it's been able to exist so long.
And that's the issue that I'm talking about. As far as, you know, you look at the colleges, you know, many of us play for predominantly white colleges. There's a young brother at Howard that said he's going to play, although he's a D1 athlete, he said he's going to play for Howard. But it's not about just playing the sport, as you pointed out. You look at Black athletes that go and play for the University of Kentucky or the University of Tulsa, where they, you know, the Tulsa massacre, or where they, Kentucky, where they had so many Black men in prison, or Mississippi, University of Mississippi, or especially University of Alabama, football and things of this nature, where Governor Wallace was and all that. And, you know, they use these athletes, they cheer for these athletes. And many of them are playing sports that could lead to permanent injuries and and all kind of other stuff. And they're in the chain. Then they turn right back around and vote for a racist governor, a racist senator, a racist president, and you know, and they act like you know. I mean, I understand when you get a scholarship, you know, hey, you go to these schools because you can sign pro out of them. They have a lot of pros and things of this nature. But right. As Joe was trying to say, from the standpoint of Black athletes organizing and trying to lift the educational consciousness of let's build up the Black schools if we're going to go to college. Second, and then at the same time, think about revisiting, starting like the old Negro Baseball League. They used to have a Black basketball profession and things of this nature, but most of them want on a team in the NBA and be a part owner, 15%, and they say he's an owner and he only owns 3%, and they're using his name and putting him out front. And that all that exploitation. Could you comment on those aspects?
And that's the part that you touch on that's so relevant, man, is that, you know, they make it look away. And Kyrie said it. I felt like when they went into the bubble, if we hadn't gone down into the bubble, I felt like that was the critical point that we could have truly made an exodus from professional sports to create our own. And that, you know, Kyrie Irving brought the point up, and what's so wild about this whole, you know, to show you how racism works. So they're in an executive session for the NBA Players Association. Everything is supposed to be confidential. How could a reporter ask a player coming out of a confidential meeting exactly what happened in the meeting about what Kyrie said? So it's a thing that for me, you know, I love it because where we at right now, I feel freedom. I don't know about anybody else, but I feel like right now we are at a different point in history in as far as us being able to literally write our own script and being able to show this next generation, this is the direction that we have to go. And one of the things that y'all did for us, y'all put a challenge on the people who are part of Black Student Union and Black Studies to be able to go out here and operate differently than other people and other you know, people who are at Long Beach State to be trained to go into IBM or whatever. You know, y'all taught us to actually consider the issues that's facing our people and be a solution to it as opposed to, you know, just looking at it and reflecting on it.
Yeah, see, if you go with the
You're going in and out, brother.
Okay, Rahh. Rahh, we can't hear you.
You go with baseball, basketball, football, major, those three majors. Track, you go all the way back to the Olympics. But can you hear me? You can't hear me, Rigo?
Now we can.
You go ahead, Rigo. You can hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, like I was saying, is that you deal with the history of those sports. They didn't even let Black people play them. Golf, basketball, football. Tell Jackie Robinson, to the brother in the 50s in basketball and football. And yet at the same time, it seems like a lot of the athletes that comes in, well, there's some that a lot of them that took some very strong positions and have done some good things, especially lately, as far as Black Lives Matter. Even the women teams have done some beautiful things on the tennis court. The young Asian and African sister, as well as what what they were doing on the court in the bubble, and forcing the NBA to take a position on social justice, but at the same time, and asking them to put money in Black communities and into other aspects of Black life. When you were whiteballed because of your position and the challenges you had, the conflict you had on the team with the Chicago Bulls, What was that like? Because I know you had some criticism of some of the players that was not doing enough in the Black community, and you know there was sort of like a white backlash on you.
No question. And I think, you know, one of the biggest things that I learned during that period of time is how important my family support base was to be able to know that I was standing on principles that they had given me, but at the same time, they saw what happens when you go publicly on the level that I did. So, you know, it was one of those things for me, the lessons that were learned was that, you know, it's a rejection part that comes with it. And then it's a reflection part that comes with it. And then it's a level of respect that comes with it. And right now, it's come full circle, you know, where the position that I took at that time is respected now, is admirable to a lot of people. But to me, it's one of those things that it's just part of the fabric of, I'm not necessarily revolutionary thought, but I'm just saying it's a natural progression of freedom, and we're in liberation, and that we were taught that it was going to be a period of time when that came. And I feel like right now we are in that period of liberation, and more liberation of consciousness and thought, brother. And that some of the things that y'all taught me, it lives on in my children. And I think that's what it's about, is being able to build out that next generation where it's no fear more than anything else. Omar.
Hey, Craig, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Good to see you, my good brother.
No.
Yes, Omar.
Good to see you. Thank you for all the work you're doing.
No, appreciate you, brother.
I'm on my NAACP call at the same time, so I'm gonna check out and listen to the rest.
Cool. Handle your business, brother.
Craig, in the issue of Black athletes, especially the Black professional athlete, when it comes down to the issue of social justice, and it comes down to them using their platform to sort of organize or support Black groups. Now, let me give an example. We got some strong Black groups out there. Now, some whites and some Blacks are giving a lot of money to Black Lives Matter. But there are other arguments. A lot of people have given money to the Nation of Islam. But there are other organizations, cultural conscious organizations,
Yes.
that also need support. Do you see any of the athletes prior to Black Lives Matter and that movement helping Black organizations, even NAACP? How does that work with the money that they make? You know, do they support the movement for justice for the other people that aren't pro?
And I think that's one of the things where.
Did you hear me?
Yes, sir. I heard you. You know, to the position of our athletes being able to support.
Could you hear me?
Yes, I could hear you, brother. And that's one of the things that we worked on today, Kwame and myself, is building this organization where we can mobilize. And one of the biggest lessons I learned when I was in Long Beach State was at a consciousness conference when, you know, the late Kwame Ture spoke, and he told us about organization and how important it is to organize. And that's what we're doing right now, so that we're able to, you know, Operation Unite Save the Youth is the organization that we founded back in 1991. And the premise is just what you speak about, utilizing athletes and entertainers in the communities where they're from to support those organizations that already exist who are doing good things for our people. And like you say, so many times the United Way, you know, NAACP, Operation Push, and those type of things, they get that public view, but those organizations that are really on the ground, boots on the ground, conscious, those have been somewhat left behind. And I think with this generation and with social media, that would definitely, you will see a change in that. And I just see what Kwame's done the last 2 weeks to let us know that it's capable of being changed in almost a radical fashion in what it is today.
So how do you see the Black athlete today? what are some of the issues you think they face?
I think the biggest issue they face is, the fact that they have a public spotlight and how to, I look at LeBron. LeBron is doing great things. And then when it became a moment where he had to make a statement on China, it became a thing where he almost had to dance this tightrope. And I think that's one of the things that brothers have. You're in the game maybe 10 years at the most. And how do you max out economically and at the same time try to stay true to who you are? And a lot of brothers is education too, man. A lot of brothers don't have the education of knowledge of who they are and where they came from. But at the same time, I think when you have that opportunity to make that type of bread, you can get the research and put people at work. But I think right now we're seeing a change in the athletic mindset, even if it's a small portion of brothers who are willing to step forward and talk about it.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah.
The people want to ask questions. Other people want to ask questions.
Okay, I'll go around the panel. I'll start at the top here. Brother Ronnie.
Yeah, Craig, one of the key statements that Michael Jordan made, and he was as capable of contributing to the cause as much as anybody, was he didn't want to really speak out about issues that pertain to Black life and culture and the inequalities and injustices, simply because Republicans buy tennis shoes as well. Were you around the Bulls during that time, and what was the general overall reaction of the players?
Yeah, it was crazy because that whole conversation had happened in the locker room probably 2 weeks prior, where it was one of those things that was said and didn't nobody even trip on it until, it got loose and it became a media thing. Some of the things that had been said and have been said from that base and from MJ, a lot of people would shiver at some of the stuff that's been said, and it ain't for me to out the brother on things that have been said, but that was one of them, and to me, it's reflective of who he is, man, and that it's about the bread and it's economics, and that it's economics, capitalism 101. When he came to Chicago, he was told to be apolitical as an athlete, and it was all about his brand. And once again, like I said, he was the first team athlete to be marketed as a golfer or individual athlete. And if we look off of that, that's what all the athletes have done since MJ, because everybody want to be like Mike, and when they put that out there, brother, it caught like wildfire, and it happened on a lot of different levels, not just the marketing end, but it happened on the end where athletes took a different position. I think about, you look at the brothers in the 60s and 70s who were conscious athletes, changed their names and all of that. And then you look at, it was a hiatus where, nothing was spoke about from 70s almost until I went to the White House in 1991. No one really had a position as far as Black people were concerned. It was about economics. And I think the biggest part was in 1978, 79, when Magic and Bird played in the NCAA finals, that the NBA at that point in time they considered it nothing but Africans because the league was Black. And, they needed to make it palatable to those who bought tickets. So we have the two greatest college players of all time possibly square off in a national championship. And then they just so happened to go to the two storied teams in the league, the Lakers and Celtics on the coast. And it just happened to come out that way. But we can not only market it as Black versus white, good versus evil. We'll put Magic in a pair of we'll put Bird in a pair of black Converse because the Celtics wear black. We'll put Magic in his Converse, and then we'll have this marketing battle. And who got the bread? And it's that same mantra, man, that Republicans buy gym shoes. It's about economics more than it is about
absolutely
about people, brother.
One last issue. In my mind, and when I came up, Kareem is a year younger than I am, and the same age as Brother Rahh. I always thought he was the GOAT, but I thought he could never get GOAT recognition simply because his name was not Lou Alcindor, it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Kareem did everything Mike did and more.
And the cold part about it, is that the reality is, you know, having a chance to sit on the bench with Kareem as far as the coach with the Lakers and getting a chance to pick his brain and to see the brothers are intelligent off the charts. So
absolutely.
You know, it's not a matter of his intellect, whether basketball or whether the world, you know what I'm saying? And then you have a brother that was able to revolutionize the game on every level that he played on, of course, you know, and once again, that whole GOAT thing is, you know, the media inspired of it. I tell people, for me, Muhammad Ali came up with the phrase "greatest of all time," so he
still is the GOAT.
You know, and when I think on a basketball level, because Bill Russell, you know, won more than anybody, that, you know, and it's about winning, man.
Absolutely.
But Kareem, for him not to have ever had a head coaching job or a general manager's job or a president's job or ownership, it shows what white supremacy is about. And like you said, it's all about the name. And like our parents tell us, it's a lot in the name.
Absolutely.
Okay. Brother Omawale, any questions?
Can I ask, brother, if you could come back to me after Omawale?
Okay, I don't know if he can unmute, but we'll just go ahead and go. Okay, Impinduzi.
Yeah, I mean, you can go with Omawale, but when you get through with him, you can come back with me, please, because you skipped me.
Well, I kind of go. We probably have different screens.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry then. Okay, let me back up. I'm just looking at the screen how I see it here. So let me back up and let the organizers do their thing.
Okay, but Omawale is not unmuted, so I don't know what's going on. So we'll go to you, Impinduzi.
Impinduzi. Okay. First of all, I want to thank Brother Rahh, Brother Joe Hembrick, and of course, our guest, Craig Hodges, for sharing that information with us. It's important that we begin to share and tell our own story because nobody else will. So I want to thank them and all the people that was involved in putting on this show. And of course, thank everybody for tuning in. Sir. I have a lot of questions, but I'm just going to ask one and let it go around the room. And then if we have time, I'll ask the other one. But one of the things that I've noticed is that the problem with the Black athlete is similar to the problem that we have in the community. Like Brother Craig said, everybody knows what's going on, but everybody not organized to do something about it. And that's the key issue. What are you going to do? Now, first of all, I just want to ask Brother Craig. He talked to, okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I wanted to ask Brother Craig, he had talked a little bit about organizing, and that's the key to our struggle is that we gotta be organized. We gotta be organized into some kind of structure in order to promote our own interests. Now, he began to talk about that a little bit. I'd like to ask him if he would expound on that a little more. And then again, who are the athletes that we can support? And how can we support those athletes who are standing up for their rights and for Black people's interests?
Right. Once again, brother, I appreciate your question, man. And going, you know, the athletes that we can support right now, I look at Chris Paul, I look at LeBron, I look at Kyrie Irving, I look at Kevin Durant, Dwight Howard, you know, and the sisters on the other side, Sister Maya Moore, who's taken a strong position, Sister Osaka, you know, it's athletes like that who have taken the forefront. And at the same time, for me, it's about supporting the younger athletes, the athletes who are on the high school level now. I have 4 or 5 young brothers and sisters that I'm training on the high school level, and to get them to see things from a level where they are, that, you know, it's about training your body, training your mind, but you have to be thinking about things on a critical level so people will respect what you're thinking about and what your movements are. You know, and on the other point is that the organization that I'm working on is Operation Unite, Save the Youth. And I feel like it has the ability to be that vehicle that we speak about, a vehicle where we can all lock in, everybody can be who they are, and at the same time, athletes and entertainers can utilize our visibility and the resources and the base of resources that we have, and utilize this as a sounding board for those organizations that are working, man. And you know, that's the biggest thing, like you say, it's wild how right now, more than any other period of time, we coming together and everybody can feel it. Like you say, it's just a matter of what each individual is going to do about it. And then how does that blend into the collective, man? So when I saw Kwame Brown and Devin George, one is in Georgia and one is in Minnesota, and both of them doing great works. How do we make sure that Devin George, who's doing sustainable housing in Minnesota, transfer that to Georgia, to Chicago? How does Kwame Brown do his business deals that he's doing with women's shelters and the like? How do we pull that off across the country and make it where it's under our banner? You know, and I think that's the thing, is that so many times, so much of our energy is diluted because we don't have that one vehicle or two vehicles that we can buy into, and we can have like the B'nai B'rith, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? That this is ours, and we're not, it's under, when we can be unapologetically about it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we have right now, is we have a collective consciousness of what it is to do. Now it's a matter of where is that arc being built to be done on.
Okay, thanks a lot. Brother Joe Frazier. Okay, well, I'm gonna move on to Wanda Davis.
Sisterhood.
All right.
Yes. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's such an honor to just sit at your feet and listen to your experience. I've been an avid sports fan since I was a little girl, and I'm just so grateful for the invitation. Dr. Rosemary Allen, thank you. And to Professor Amin Rahh, this is my first time meeting you, but I am dear friends with Brother Omar Montgomery. So
Yes.
this is truly an opportunity. So I will get to my question, which focuses on young people. I have an 11-year-old grandson who is currently playing for the AAU Adidas travel team here on the East Coast. And I am a racial justice advocate. My two grown adulting children are beautiful Black educators, always inserting Black narrative, centering Black lives and Black experiences. So my grandson is very astute when it comes to that as an 11-year-old. And how, in your opinion, as you talk about young people, and how do you, or what would you suggest that we do, whether it's parents, coaches, whoever is in that support system, to really encourage young people from day one? It's not just about capitalism. It's not about the latest sneaker. It's not about the endorsements, but what are we doing for our communities and for ourselves, and showing up unapologetically as Black men and women on the court?
And you know, that's the beautiful part in being involved with young folks, especially on the training end, is to see and to see all the funny stuff that they're thinking about that doesn't really, it doesn't really matter, but it matters so much to them. And you have to be able to get to them and let them know that it's a lot larger stuff than what you're thinking about. But at the same time, I think, you know, when I'm looking at, I was speaking to one of the brothers, I've been training his son since he was 9 years old, and he's 15 right now. And I'm saying to him, you only have so many games in your body. And AAU is taking this thing to where you may be playing 30, 40, 50 games in the summer. And I'm saying to parents, be mindful that you want your child to be great late, not great early. You know, I don't want my child or any child to be the best ninth grader. I want you to be at 20 when you starting to reach your stride of what it really was that you trained for and what you can actually max out in this sport or in this game. And I think, you know, likewise, the importance of the reality of what it means to be a student athlete, and that the fact that if you start to train yourself, like for instance, when I got to Long Beach State, I loved basketball and I loved to read and write, but I didn't know anything about our history. So the high school that I was to go to my sophomore, junior, senior year, they had black history. But I moved to a white school my sophomore year, so I didn't have that. So when I got to Long Beach State and my first class was with Dr. Karinga, for me, it was like, eureka. You know what I'm saying? It was one of the moments like, you know, I will be studying Black studies for the rest of my life. There is no other curriculum, you know? And for me, the more I studied about myself, the better my game became, whether it was real or not. It seemed that way to me because basketball seemed easy compared to this movement to free a people, and to know that within that freedom is the fact that we lost our God, we lost our tongue, we lost everything. And now we're able to speak their tongue, study their ways. But at the same time, with the young athlete, I like what you're doing, that give it to them. Like I give it to them. Let them see it, let them know that racism exists. You know, I was in a bank in California. I went in the bank and my baby boy, who's 9, I took him in with me. And I got funds in the bank, but the bank is messing with this check that I just did for an appearance. And I told my son, I said, now watch, when this lady who knows this stuff is ready, watch her when she walks to this back office. Now, whenever you come in the bank and they walk to a back office and you know you got bread, know that it's something with the way that you look and not with anything that you're doing. And that's the biggest part of young athletes, knowing that. And also, you know, with this whole social media thing, as best you can, your student athlete child, keep them off of those websites that are saying they are the top this, that they're rating players who are 7th, 8th graders. Because now that rating process is also, I look at almost like when they would track a child in education, that no good, or this child can read, this child can't read. But it was a matter that child didn't have nothing to eat that morning when you tested them. You know what I'm saying? So now you got me on this track. Likewise, they can track athletes the same way, that if you don't play the game under their banner and their rules, oftentimes in this AAU circuit, you're not rated. And my thing is to young athletes everywhere and hearing this, if you can play, they're gonna see you play, but you gotta make sure that you qualify to be seen. And if I'm not educationally correct, ain't nobody ever gonna get to see my game. And that I have to be prepared that when I come into high school to be tested, that I have to get my testing right so that I can be part of the NCAA clearinghouse. So, you know, like with you, sister, you got an 11-year-old, and I would say to you that as best you can, try to have a hand in them AAU programs. You know what I'm saying? And as far as either put one together that you know that can be student athlete based as opposed to athlete based and no student involvement, you know, that it has to be a balance that's given to our children at that age where they know that their responsibility is to be smart first, that not to be the best 25-point scorer and that you want to be MJ or you want to be Kobe or you want to be LeBron, but you want to be who you are and stand on your measure of, hey man, I'm articulate, I understand what's going on with the world, but I am not arrogant because I have a talent. And oftentimes when, you know, Brother Rahh asked about why we don't see a lot of us do what we do, you know, when you think in terms of somebody telling you that you want to get out of a place that you grew up, now once you get out, where are you looking to go? And when we looking to go, we were trying to go to a gated community where 90% don't look like us, and then we feel like we made it. You don't know how many athletes I've heard who are Black athletes who are superstars who said that they had to have a white woman because that was a trophy. So if white woman is a trophy, what is white life? You feel me? White life becomes the measure of success as opposed to this is something that we done mastered their system. So this is something I have to go through in order to get to that goal to help my folks, as opposed to that being the ultimate end is me living in Beverly Hills or me living in Winnetka or me living in, you know, wherever. But it's a matter of realizing that a young person like your 11-year-old, sky's the limit.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
No, I appreciate your question, sister.
Okay, Rosemarie Allen.
Hey, so glad to be here. Craig Hodges, BSU Black Studies. It's like a Cal State Long Beach Black Student Union reunion. I'm seeing Jerry Davis, who was BSU president after I was. Here we are founding the Black Consciousness Conference, and the way that we all sat at the feet of Professor Amun-Ra, Dr. Ron Karenga, Minister Rashidin, who then became Khalid Muhammad, and Minister Farrakhan. Those were the days then that have created who we are today.
No question.
Not only who we are, but who our children are. And when I listen to my sister, Tawana Davis, and those seeds that were planted then are bearing fruit now in our generations. And as I think about activism and what we were taught to do, and how I believe all three of us were in exploitation of the Black athlete together,
no doubt,
in Rah's class, that the activism that was a mandate for us. You know, here we are, the 40th anniversary of our classmates, Ron Settle's death. And how we were all there marching and protesting. So my question is more about activism and what I can do. One of the things that's heavy on my heart right now is this racial norming of NFL players to decrease or deny them benefits for the concussions that they suffer from. I don't know if many of you are aware of this, but when Black athletes file claims, they go through this racial norming process where they're saying Black athletes are cognitively inferior to start with. So because they are cognitively inferior, they set the baseline very low. So when they're assessing cognitive loss, they're saying, well, they were already inferior. And now that they're here, the loss isn't as great as it was for white players. So they denied billion-dollar claims. Just recently, I believe yesterday, it was reported that the NFL is halting this process, but we have to make sure as a people that we know what to do to support these players in getting the benefits that they are due. So my question to you is, for activists, you know, we can jump on a bandwagon and protest in the street, and that has its place. But how can we organize to support players so that they can get the benefits? Talk about exploitation. We know they're exploited while they're playing, but the great exploitation afterwards, where they're not taken care of after they've sacrificed their bodies to this game.
Yes, sister. It, like you say, it's a family reunion, you know.
Yes, it is.
You know, and what's so cool about what you're speaking about, it's a brother that was at Long Beach with us by the name of Terry Bolar. And Terry is down in Atlanta, and he's working closely with the concussion protocol. And I'll make sure that I touch down with him after this to make sure he reaches out to you and the rest of the crew to make sure that that's something we can all, you know, and you know, the biggest part of it is that I found when I was in the league is that the league is fragile in ways, but the public doesn't have agility. And it is fragile where Black women, if you write letters, they respond in action. So in 1992, when I was blackballed out the league, Black women in Chicago wrote letters to the NBA saying that I should be able to be in the three-point contest. And they got me in. And when I look at this whole thing, when Colin Kaepernick, it was Black women that the NFL was afraid of that wouldn't be watching games because they knew brothers were watching games. And if brothers are watching games, they want sisters around to watch them games. And if the sister said, no, we're not watching, brother's gonna be like, where y'all going? Well, that's where we're going. And the NFL understands that, as well as I think all of these multinational corporations, they realize one thing: the whole organizational power within our community is based with Black women. And we, who are brothers, we can do all we want to do, but we know that that's what that force is when we're talking about true organizational glue to what's happening. When you ask about the protocol and all of that, we can definitely do something about it. And I think it's one of those things where it has to become, you know, it's one thing to do stuff privately, but I think we have to be more vocal and visible in both those, that support and the way we go about going to the NFL, NBA, as well as those players unions to make sure that they're on doing what they're supposed to do as far as the players are concerned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I know Professor Amon-Ra tried to unmute. Are you able to talk, Professor Amon-Ra? Okay, so he's not able to come on, but I think he wanted to make a correction on that term black ball. He calls it white ball.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And you know, that was one of the first lessons I got from Dr. Karinga. You know, we sitting there, he's like, why is it white ball, white is a driven snow. Everything white is pure. Everything black. It was a great experience just on that little simplistic term. And once again, I think as we move and ascend to a higher level, many of those terms that are kind of embedded in us, we have to start to change that narrative and vocabulary, that it becomes one of victory as opposed to strife. That now I feel like we are really in victory, that having won championships, having been in positions of what is quote unquote victory. But one of the things I tell my people all the time is that, you know, true liberation, we won't really know until we have a meal and what really is freedom. And we haven't been there, so we won't know what that is until we really taste one in freedom.
Okay, Herman Few.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Craig, man, it's such an honor to see you, brother. I'm glad Sister Dana got with you, and we got the number. Matter of fact, she gave me the number, and I gave it to Tyrone Nesby, and he got it to Kwame. So
good, and we said, brother, I appreciate you.
Yes, man.
Yeah.
You know, this type of collection is awesome to me because discussion is what needs to happen. And I'll just briefly say a little bit about my background. I was a former NCAA co-facilitator for the NCAA Life Skills Program at Cal Berkeley. I was a West Coast recruiter for No Limit Sports. I helped recruit Ricky Williams. So I did NFL, I did NBA, I did WNBA. Then I myself got certified in the NFL. I say all this because I've dealt with a plethora of athletes. And one of the things that just, even till now, just struck me was the difficulty with the African-American athlete connecting with the Black professional. And there's, you know, whether it be agent, accountant, psychologist, you go down the line. I mean, I've had brothers tell me, Herman, it's too good to be true. Everything you told me is on point. I want to be with you, but I can't be with you because I feel like you're hustling me.
Right, right.
I mean, it's just amazing. So,
but they'll come back to you. They'll come back to you after they've been jerked.
Right. Well, they come back to me after they're played out, and it, you know, it's too late, and then they want me to do a miracle. Exactly. So I get a lot of guys on the back end, not the front end. Yes. You know. But my question, Craig, is I'm really paying attention to what Kwame's talking about. He's really saying, hey, let's not talk about it, let's be about it, let's make things happen.
That's right.
I think one thing, if we could bring a collection of brothers and sisters together to have these kind of discussions, what do you think the feasibility is in doing that? Whether
I think, you know, like right now, this to me, and I told Kwame earlier that I was gonna make sure that I give him the information so that he can get with this group, and he's open. The brother is a sponge in as far as he realizes he didn't go to college, he doesn't know everything, to reach out to him and connect with him. And I think that's the coolest part of where we are right now, is that it's not really any negativity to stop people from connecting, man. And I think I think this is a leadership team for the nation. And as far as I'm concerned, because you have a collective that is study beyond measure to know what needs to be done. Now we just need to, like you say, so much of it is the connection between, like you say, those Black entrepreneurs who don't have access to the athletes because of that agency. And that's the part that I think is changing with a sister like Tawana, who has an 11-year-old who may grow to be 7 foot, who knows? And that now we have young players who are coming in who we can teach and train that it's more important to your community than it is to you oftentimes. So we have to put that in the mind. But brother, yeah, I think this is a great starter, and that this could be that engine block, and you know, that we put to our people. And I think that that's one of the things that has to happen is that for me, I'm definitely talking about this going forward, that this is a group that we have to work with, and that all of us have people all over the country, man. So I feel like we have the country actually blanketed. Now we just have to send the energy and the currency through it to get it happening.
Yeah, well, when I think of the whole industry, I mean, we have the fuel, we got the power, even though we don't control it, but it's our talent. We're the ones that hitting the home run, slam dunking, you know, but we're not controlling that. But I think collectively, if we can come together and talk and then, you know, support each other at all different areas. I mean, I look at the coaching. I mean, one of the things I've been doing with Tyrone is getting him in coaching, and I'm having a heck of a job doing that. And it just doesn't make sense.
Yes.
You know,
and
he's got to be 10 times better.
That's it. And that's the thing, man, is that we just have to, you know, keep rolling at it. And like you say, I think right now we have another brother that was, you know, Black Student Union President, Barry Thomas. You know, Barry's been very helpful in helping brothers get an opportunity coaching level. So, you know, I just keep him, and that's the biggest thing, man, is keep training to that what he needs to do, and we'll get him in somewhere.
Right. Well, I'm gonna definitely connect him with you, because I find it interesting because you play with Jordan the front end of his career. Tyrone played with him in Washington the back end.
And when Tyrone caught him, when Tyrone and Kwame caught him, they caught him when he was at that, you know, where you have that age when you be like, you know, not angry, but kind of salty. They caught the salty MJ because we was talking about it. You know, youth has its privileges. And as you get older, you see that, man, I ain't as young as I used to be. These young brothers, they got this going and that going. And you see where, man, it's a certain opportunity you may feel like you lost because of the age that you are. But yeah, they caught the salty MJ.
Absolutely. But anyways, brother, this is wonderful. When I reconnected with Professor Rahh, we chopped it up, man. I mean, I came on campus in '84, and that was my first exposure to Black studies.
Yeah, man.
And I thought I knew something, but
I know you set up.
I didn't know nothing.
Set up straight, didn't you?
So this is wonderful, man, and I'm with it, man. You know, I'm all my contacts, all in, all my knowledge, all in.
That's it. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Okay, Miss Rosemary, you say you have Rahh. He's able to speak now. Can you unmute, please? Miss Rosemary, you are muted.
All righty, go ahead, Rahh.
All right. We got Jerry Davis, who was doing music and sound for the sports. Jerry, go ahead and tell them who you are.
Oh, yeah, okay. So first thing I gotta say is that the white mentality is cold-blooded. It is stealth, and there are things that we are touching upon that are relevant, but there are things that we are missing, in my opinion, based upon my experience.
Yes, sir.
I first need to say that I too was at Long Beach from 78 to 80. I went from Long Beach on to UC Berkeley on to UCLA. I gravitated towards the music industry. I've been in entertainment for 40 years now. First 20 years was in the record industry, Death Row, Interscope, blah, blah, blah. And then my second 20 years, which is where I'm at now, is working in sports television as a music supervisor, a music director. And I had the privilege of working with senior management. And it was a rude awakening. And I have not heard anybody talk about senior management at the broadcast network level. And we're talking about a $22.4 billion industry. Here's what I mean. They give us access to the playing fields. They give us access to coaching, arguably. They give us entry-level positions into the networks. They give us mid-management positions into the networks. But when it comes to senior management, the disparity is stark. 77% of the NBA is African-American, 67% of the NFL is African-American, 60% of college basketball is African-American, 50% of college football is African-American. Yet at the senior level, at the broadcast level, we represent less than 1%. I'm speaking from experience and fact. I was the head of music at Fox Sports for 16 years and was denied promotion 4 times. And when I took a look at the numbers basically said in the 18 years that Fox had been in existence, there had been a total of 38 vice presidents and above. And in those 18 years, they only had 3 African Americans. That's not even 1%. So when I sued Fox, I was stunned when I got calls from other networks, NBC, ESPN, CBS, from African Americans saying, Jerry, you're doing the right thing, but it's worse where we work. I'm like, worse than where you work? I'm like, we had 0.6% at Fox. And I think that that experience reminded me of something that I was privy to many years ago. I was privy to a conference, a global economic conference. And at the global economic conference, they had a breakout session with the Japanese community. And in that breakout session, the heads of all these Japanese multinational corporations were tweaking the Japanese 500-year plan. See, we need to infiltrate the broadcast networks, and we need to think on a much grander scale. And by the way, as an aside, there was no representation of the Africans, African Americans, anybody that looked like us on this call. The only representation, or the only time that we were made reference to, was as consumers.
Teach.
So, I am a prodigy of Professor Amin-Ra Maulana Karenga. I collaborated and was led, and eventually took the baton from Rosemary. I know Barry Thomas, and all of this is wonderful, but we got to think bigger. It's all about, we got to hit it where it hurts. If you really want to keep it real, just think for a moment. Think for a moment, if anybody African-American associated with any level of sport, or television, or music, or TV, or film, what if we all went on a strike? 30-day strike. I'm just saying, what if? But those are my observations.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah. And see, for me, those types of things need to be into our consciousness, brother.
Nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody. And I see these cats, man. Let me tell you something real fast. I don't mean to get on a soapbox, but I'm gonna just tell you this real fast. I was there for 16 years. I was working on a project, hooked up with the gentleman, white guy, and I knew him, but this is the first time we worked on a project. And so trying to get to know him, I asked him what his story was, thinking like, did you go to Purdue, East Coast, West Coast, did you work at ESPN? And his response to me was, well, now mind you, I'm a director. And the first thing he says is, well, I got hired as a director 5 years ago, And in my first year, they made me vice president. And then this year, they made me a senior VP. And I was like, yo, hold up. You went from director to senior VP in 5 years. I've been here 16 and I can't get one? And that's when the light bulb went off. And it is epidemic at the senior level and nobody talks about it.
Yep.
So I'm done.
We're going to talk about it now. Please.
Okay, Okay, Rosemary, you can unmute.
I think Rahh was speaking, but we're getting too much feedback.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Can you all hear him okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, Omawali, out of Houston. Are you up?
Right. He wasn't able to unmute, or he wasn't unmuting earlier, so I went to the next person.
Okay. What about Ronnie Ross?
He went already. We can go to Omar or Brother Doctor, one of them.
Okay, so let Brother Doctor come in.
Right, Brother Doctor.
Okay, hey, thanks for having me on this show. I think Mr. Hodges, appreciate it.
Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, this is my question. I watched some of your past interviews, man, and everybody's kind of hitting on this, and Mr. Davis, Miss Davis, they kind of said it. But this is my problem, man. Because you talked about growing up insulated and how they kind of chased you back across the tracks and you growing up in the Jim Crow area. And my number one would be insulated. Then you talked about, you had a passion when it came to the cultural influence of the day's players, and you were talking about the gang signs they were throwing up. Then the next 3, 4, and 5, in which everybody's kind of talking here, you're talking about marketing, consumers, and value. That's what we're up against. How do we compete against that, man? Because how are we going to beat that? Mr. Davis just said about, his work field, and hey, I'm line staff, I'm low level, and we had the same issues where I worked at. You got a guy come in, I'm there 10, 15 years, he's come in 2 years, he's a supervisor. But how do we as Blacks compete against being insulated, cultural influence, marketing, consumers, and the value? And everybody's touched on one of those words. And like I said, I saw your past interview with DJ Vlad. And one thing like Mr. Davis, I don't know if he saw you, because you mentioned something about when you talked to Michael Jordan about the Clyde Drexler thing. And, Clyde Drexler just didn't play that game.
Mm-hmm.
And, like I said, it comes down to that 5. So, see, that's my 5. That's the 5 starting lineup for the opposing team. The insulated, cultural influence, marketing, consumers, and value. How are you going to compete against that, my brother?
One of the things that, like, when we sitting here on this panel, to me, all the answers are here. So Brother Davis just gave us, probably for me, one of the most eye-opening things, that why we are where we are, that so much of what is given to us is from that senior management level and it filters down. And that is that boundary that we have got to, that we got to conquer, man. And I feel like, Buckminster Fuller says, the only way you do something is make that which is now obsolete. And we got to make this thing obsolete to the point that, we come up with our own, whether it be, I don't know, Brother Davis, do we get our own satellites, or what do we need to do in order to do this thing on a level that needs to be done, where our messages are getting across as opposed to it being a programmatic thing, and which has been to the degree that, you say that, if all the senior management is like, what is coming across to the people on a mass level? And I think that's the thing that you're speaking about, that we have, and my thing to you, Brother Davis, is it us boycotting? Is it us striking? What is the premise? What do you see as that first step to be able to make that difference?
I think it's what I already alluded to. I think we have to make an investment into our future. I think it begins with a grand plan. We won't be here to see the end of it, but it needs to start with the trickle. You know, I have an offspring right now. I have a 29-year-old son who's a 2-time Emmy-winning award-winning producer who just left Fox to go work with Kevin Garnett. And he's a big thinker. And he's a byproduct of me. Apple don't fall far from the tree. And so, to your point, yeah, we got to get into some of the technologies. We got to get into the satellites. We got to be able to control some of these broadcasting rights so we can control the narrative. You know, but as it stands right now, they are not letting us in, and the world is fooled because they see people like us on TV reporting, or they see people like us on the courts. They think it's all good.
Yes, yes, and I think oftentimes we are promoting that image that all is well, you know, as opposed to, you know, that all ain't good.
It's not good enough.
Yeah.
It's not good enough. We can do better.
Yes.
But at this point, the narrative's not even out there. You know,
Right.
I see broadcast television talking about the Rooney Rule in the NFL. You know, like what's going on with the Rooney Rule, and this and that, and this and that, and this and that. And I'm thinking to myself, what about your own Rooney Rule, ESPN?
Exactly.
You want to say something about the Rooney Rule in the NFL? Y'all ain't doing squat.
So maybe say for instance, I holler at the brothers in the league and say, is there a way where we can put pressure from that side that if it's TNT or whoever's broadcasting NBA games have got to make sure that the senior management of those broadcast networks look like that which they're producing on the court?
100%. Absolutely.
Gotcha,
absolutely.
bro.
Absolutely.
I'm on it tomorrow.
And then people like people like Herman Few won't have the problems that he has when athletes say, "Hey, brother, I like what you're saying, but," you know what I mean?
You know what, brother? You know what? It's the fact that you said that. This is something that should be in every collective bargaining agreement.
Absolutely.
That this is never. I know I was player rep for 10 years. Nothing ever came across us other than what our percentage of TV revenues would be.
Yeah, I like I said, brother, the white mentality is cold-blooded, man. They are stealth.
Yes.
Yeah, stealth. And to me, and maybe some might consider this inappropriate, so I apologize in advance. But to me, when I look at the senior management and the broadcast dollars and the African-American athlete, that reminds me more of the exploitation of the slave than anything. Because I got to see the money.
No question. No question.
I didn't touch it, but I saw it. And it's bananas.
Got you, brother. I'm yeah, okay.
Okay, Miss Rosemary.
No,
go back to
I
Rob.
have one question. I just have one quick question. If Mr. Hodges can put this on a little layman's term in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say, hey, this is the fourth quarter. Where are we as Black people? Are we down by 10, down by 20? And there's this whole race, man. Where are we at? Where are we at, man? Let's explain this in basketball terms. How far are we behind? Are we close? I mean, where are we at in basketball terms?
In basketball terms, I would say it like this. Okay, time is running out. We got the momentum. We got the ball, and we getting ready to give it to Kareem. So ain't no way to lose. Ain't no way to lose. So it's nothing but, to me, it's just a matter of us crossing the finish line. But in order for us to cross the finish line, we got to be arm in arm doing it.
Quick question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Rosemary.
I thought Rahh was going to come on now.
Right?
I can't hear you. Put your phone up to you. Are you on speaker? I can hear you. Hold on.
We
Okay,
can
keep
hear him. It's not good, but he could see.
Yes,
Hello?
yes.
Yeah.
All right. The most important thing that we got to, as Dr. Karenga teaches us, education, education, mobilization, organization, and confrontation will lead to transformation.
Mm.
Now, those are the, Operation Unity, unity with diversity and unity without uniformity. But you need a leadership, you need a philosophy, you need a doctrine, and you need commitment. You have to choose to struggle and choose to be Black or African.
Teach.
And that's very difficult when you are under oppression, because you want to try to get some of that pressure off of you, and you think that if you act white, talk white, and love white, that you think they're going to take some of the pressure off of you, but they ain't. Oppressors oppress.
That's right.
And so that's their nature. Now, getting back to the sport, first of all, I want to compliment you, Craig, for standing up when you went to the White House, standing up with some of the players that you challenged to do more in the Black community. You were talking, you even got it on the title of your book, NBA Freedom Fighter. That should resonate with the rest of the athletes, whether it be amateur, professional, or collegiate. You were one of the few activists as an athlete at Cal State Long Beach. There was a couple that you brought along with you, but they weren't as committed as you were. And you were looking for knowledge and wisdom to be a better leader.
Teach.
And that's beautiful. But we're in a struggle on all fronts. Malcolm said that. I'm not saying for people not to go out and try to be professional athletes.
Right.
But you know the percentage of people of Black making it. Now they're talking about going and starting the NBA in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Or doing some things in Africa. You got them bringing in ball players from Canada, from France, from Europe, all of them, and they started training these cats as soon as they come out the womb. Matter of fact, they try to breed them. That's how deep they are.
That's right.
As somebody said about, that Jerry was saying about the 500-year plan for the business world, well, the pro teams have plans too.
Right.
And the athletes today are more educated. They have more training, starting at 3 and 4 years old.
Yep.
And they are way ahead, whereas many of us, we just started playing at the park. We didn't have all the travel teams and all the equipment that they have. So it's a whole new different game out there. But I want to compliment the Black athletes that stood up during Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd. Right. I want to compliment the Black athletes that gave money to Georgia and Florida to help people vote. I want to compliment the sister that dropped out of her pro role as a basketball player to help this brother get out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
So people be saying, well, can we win? And I love what you just said. You said, Craig, we're going to get the ball to Kyrie.
That's right.
And you understand, because we are winning. If we out of slavery,
That's
if
it.
we out of sharecropping, manumission, if we out of the if we have fought, we won civil rights not just for ourselves, but for all. They bought, as Dr. Karenga say, they borrow our songs, they use our technique to get their civil rights. May it be the hippie movement, may it be the Asian movement. They all saying we shall overcome. We are all saying they no justice, no peace.
Peace.
Those are slogans we created. So we are now liberated. When we get liberated, the whole world be liberated.
Absolutely.
All right. We're gonna have to have a part 2.
Yes.
Because we got Brother Herman, we got Jerry Davis his guitar. We're gonna get some more advisors and more people, and we're gonna do this again.
Yes.
And hopefully my computer will be working. I want to thank my sister. This is Dr. Allen. She went on and got her PhD. And then Kuma, did you want to say anything? Oh, well, he just got his picture. But anyway.
Professor Rahh, can I add one quick thing, please?
Yes.
I want to say, this has been wonderful.
Oh, brother.
Like Craig said, we got all the information and knowledge right here. I want to challenge the organizers to collect their people's name and start an organization, start an institution that you can begin to influence and change people's attitudes and values, because that's where we got to start at. That's where we got to start at, in terms of just like all these brothers and sisters went to Long Beach and took Dr. Kranger's class and your class and was influenced by it. That's what we got to do now. We got to continue that transfer of knowledge, and we have to have an institution to do that. Thank you.
And not only that, as we are taught, the struggle is a continuous struggle. And victory is the only option.
Absolutely.
You know, and so we got to just keep pressing and keep pushing. Everybody has a role. They just got to do what they can do. It's best to lose a point rather than lose the person.
Yes, sir.
That's what we're taught. And so I want to thank Dr. Allen for the work she's doing in education, stopping them from suspending Black children all over the country, and the books and that she's writing in her podcast out in Denver. See, we got sales everywhere.
That's right. That's right.
They know when to speak, when not to speak, and know who to talk to and who not to talk to. That's the training that we have. Hembrick, Joe, you have anything else you want to say? Joe?
While we're waiting on Joe, can you please drop your email address in the chat box so that we can get in contact with everyone?
Okay, thank you. Hembrick, you have anything to say? You are mute.
Yeah, I just unmute myself. I was in and out just like you. Computer went out. I'm on my phone right now. So I missed a lot of the discussion. There's a lot of things covered. This is one thing that I used to have back in the day that used to amaze me is, they used to have all of these athletes that are supposed to be coming to the neighborhood, dealing with the kids. And there were LA teams, but everybody was meeting out in Orange County and Thousand Oaks and all of that. That was always puzzling to me as a coach myself. But anyway, it was a great forum. I was sorry I missed a lot of it, and I got to change my internet company, and hopefully that'll stop me from getting dropped out of the discussion, which has been happening almost every time. So thanks again, Brother Rahh for the forum and, making that available. And, I want to thank the guests for appearing and all the people who made comments. Peace.
Peace, peace.
Hey, Anne-Marie, can you unmute, please, for Professor Rahh?
Done. Okay, there we go. Oh, that feedback. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead, Rahh.
Yes, we can hear you.
We're gonna go ahead and close out because we done kept Mr. Hodges so long.
Oh,
And
brother.
wear his time out. We want to get him back. But we want to urge everybody to buy his book.
Appreciate you.
It's an excellent read. And we want to get all of you to know that we'll be doing another podcast. As Dr. Allen said, leave your email and Roskani will get it. This will be played on YouTube within the next hour and a half.
Wow.
For wherever we miss. So hey, y'all take care, and we're gonna do this again.
Peace, everybody. Love y'all. Love y'all.
All right. So